All right. Welcome to the latest of Watercooler Wisdom, where I am so grateful that I get to have amazing experts with me to answer the questions that I think are going to help you most. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dana Zellers. I am an executive coach. I help those busy professionals be successful at work and stop ignoring their personal lives. And with me, Lynnette, will you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Lynnette René Doby, and I also help executives. I help them craft their stories so they can better connect with their readers, their clients, whomever they want to share their stories with.
I love it. And I am so excited to have you for our little chat today. We talk so much about storytelling,
Yes.
but what is the biggest mistake that leaders are making when they're trying to use storytelling?
Oh, Dana, excellent question. So, the biggest mistake that I notice that executives make is that they don't lean into or don't know how to use properly vulnerability.
Ooh,
Yes, I know you didn't think I was going to go there, did you? Yes, I find that's something that's kind of skated over. It's not even used. And I'll give an example of how this is done properly and improperly. Let's start with
great.
improperly first. So, we're humans. It's in our nature to tell stories. That separates us from lower versions or lower animals. We tell stories. We don't know if they tell stories, but we know we tell stories. And so, within that storytelling capacity, there's a way that you can bridge connection and also separate it. So, one example is there's a particular politician whose name I'm not going to call, but he said he began his business with a small loan of $1 million. That separates people from the beginning because whose parents, number one, can give them a small loan of $1 million, and that separates. Whereas the good example would be Alex Hormozy, who I didn't even know this until I watched him on the Diary of a CEO podcast. He shared that he had a pivotal moment in his life in which he decided to, whether or not he would take the path that his family and specifically his father wanted him to take with his career, or would he go into that long, dark, cold road and find his own fortune that they used to talk about in fairy
Yeah.
tales. And it's that pivotal moment that we all have been at in our lives. And just from him telling that one story, which I'd never heard before, and I like his stuff, I realized that he trickles that into every single part of his content. Because is that not what he does with emerging business owners and leaders and founders themselves? He wants them to find their own path and forward it and create their own reality by choosing themselves. And
Mhm.
so that is the way that he was vulnerable in sharing how he, walked away from a nepotism like path because his father was high
Yeah.
executive in that industry. I believe it was finance. He walked away from that and he chose the path less taken. And then he even shared how it helped him. He was struggling for years, but
Interesting.
it helped him become to the person who he is right now. So yeah.
I love those examples. I think one of the things we often have the perception of we expect leaders to really embody their success. And so, what you're raising is that question about that vulnerability and the importance of that. There is absolutely the difference between the right and the wrong way. But what is it about that vulnerability that makes it such a more powerful story?
Because you can see yourself in it. It's relatable. When I told you the story about the $1 million loan, you were like, okay, I'm sure. Not to speak for you, but I bet you were like, that's cool. But when I told you about the second story, you could
Yeah,
kind of maybe, hopefully, and the people who are watching, you could kind of see yourself there. Have you been at that point
yeah,
where you have to make a big decision and it'll change and alter the trajectory of your career and your life? So it's
yeah,
that relatability factor. And sometimes I think that I'll just say it. I think ego kind of gets big in these people, because they've accomplished the success.
yeah,
But think about where you first started.
yeah,
No matter if you're a founder or if you're a CEO in a C suite for another company that's not your own, still people can relate to that beginning part of not knowing where you're going to go. Or, like we've talked about in another conversation, Dana, when you start in the mailroom and you work all the way up to the CFO of the company, people want to hear about that because
yeah.
that's where they feel like they may be and that's where they have been.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think that pairing with how you sort of overcame that, how you built from that, those pieces are really, again, what I'm latching onto as you're talking about that. Does that make sense?
Complete and total, because that's what people want to see. They just don't want to see, oh, you know what, I gross $17 million a year. How did you get there? How can I? Because then in turn they can substitute themselves in, how can I possibly get there? You got to
Yeah.
have that relatability. You have to show it. You got to show your work. Remember in middle school in math class?
Yeah. The other thing that you mentioned, which I want to unpack a little bit, is this idea of kind of incorporating that into various places. So, share a little bit more about how our story and our storytelling really kind of gets expanded into multiple formats.
Oh, great question. I mean, it's in everything because I believe that content should be done with intentionality. So if you start with the base of that story and you find that relatable acorn within or the nugget within there, it taps into everything that you do subsequently, whether it's short form in your email campaigns. You know, if you're a CEO, you can tell marketing, hey, I want us to lean into this when you
Yeah.
do these email campaigns. Whereas it's your personal, like I do for my clients, long form books of an executive. It's all in those pages. And that's another thing I want to say that's very curious. When I work with these executives to do their books and it's thought leadership, I put in a bit of them in it because it's kind of a memoir sort of hybrid that I like to do, because that's where you find the people who want to be with you, want to see you succeed, and they want to see you on your path because you've shown them little things. And in working with these executives, I feel them tense up when I begin to talk about the things that I know will be a breakthrough for the reader.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see how you use multiple channels to get to that underlying theme of relatability, connectivity, and closeness in story.
Yeah. No, it's so powerful. And when you talk about books, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are like, I'm not ready for a book yet. But this is the same principle applies when you're sharing posts on LinkedIn, right?
100%. It doesn't matter the channel, it just matters the story. I tell people the number one client is the story.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you serve. And then that's how you're going to connect with whomever it is that you want to engage with you further. So whether it's a long form LinkedIn post, and I'm so glad you said that, Dana, because I want to say this too. Let's be careful now when we're being vulnerable, because sometimes people, they will stretch like they're Usain Bolt about to, take off for that sprint. You don't need to talk about how your divorce reminds you of e-commerce sales.
Right.
No.
There's a line.
Exactly. Let's not force it. It's something a little bit deeper than that. So yeah. So when you're doing those LinkedIn posts, make sure that you sprinkle in everything from the essence of the story. Doesn't matter the format.
Yeah. No, I love it. Lynnette, I could talk to you forever. I think there is so much more for people to learn. If people want to get in touch with you or follow you for more, what is the best place for them to go to?
Where we are right now, LinkedIn, and also my website, www.rightwayconsulting.net. Look at you, you're so fast. Thank you so much. In that QR code, they can scan it and then connect with me. And then we can chat about getting to the essence of their story and how to do it properly and not stretch. So you get a cramp, not stretch. Has to be grounded in reality.
There is a way.
Yes.
And if you want to hear more from me, I would recommend you check out my Better Week Blueprint. It is the key to making sure that you're focusing on the right things each week as you are moving forward and deciding what is important to you. I also want to make sure that you stay tuned, come back. There are going to be more amazing experts just like Lynnette that I'm going to share with you, and you are not going to miss one. Lynnette, thank you so much for joining me. This was so fun. I think we now know a little bit more about the power of storytelling and the mistakes that we don't want to make.
Oh, it was truly my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Dana. Everyone out there, thank you for watching, and I appreciate it. And tell those stories and be real.
Love it. Love it. Take care, everyone.
You too.